In our headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, July 18th, here in South Korea. The latest tally shows at least 50 people have been killed or remain missing amid the most recent downpours, and weather forecasters say more rain is in the forecast nationwide later this week. Officials here in Seoul and their counterparts from Washington opened their first session of nuclear consultations today aimed at bolstering extended deterrence against threats by Pyongyang via information sharing on nuclear strategy. Russia officially backs out of a deal brokered by the United Nations and Turkey that allows Ukrainian grain to depart Black Sea ports, fueling fresh concerns over food and fertilizer supplies worldwide. At least 50 people have been killed or remain missing amid the latest torrential rain here, and authorities have launched a probe into the tragic underpass flooding in Osong. Our Shin Ha-young reports.
Torrential rainfall during this year's monsoon season has resulted in lost lives and damage to infrastructure. According to the latest data from the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters, as of 11 a.m. Tuesday, nationwide, 41 people have died and 9 are still missing as a result of the recent weather. In addition, 35 people have been injured, while over 12,000 have evacuated their homes for safety, and the monsoon season is not over yet. Another body, presumed to be that of a missing person, was found in a river in Yecheon-gun County, Gyeongsang-buk-do Province, where a large-scale landslide occurred due to heavy rain. Authorities are currently verifying the identity of that person. The latest victim not yet been added to the official death toll from the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters, but the number of deaths in Yecheon-gun County has now increased to 10, with 7 still missing. At the site of the flooded underpass in Osong in Cheongju City, Gyeongsang-buk-do Province, one more body was recovered, bringing the death toll from that flash flood event rising to at least 14 at 8:10 p.m. on Monday. Search and rescue efforts inside the tunnel came to an end on Monday night. However, considering that the most recently recovered body was found in a grassy area near the tunnel, the authorities plan to continue the search outside the tunnels, such as along riverbank and in fields. The Office for Government Policy Coordination announced on Monday that they have started an investigation to determine the cause of the tragic incident in Osong. Authorities confirmed that 1 to 2 hours before the tragedy took place, there were 2 emergency calls to 112 requesting the emergency evacuation of residents and emergency control of the underground tunnel. Landslides have also been a cause for concern during this monsoon season. Nationwide, 195 landslides were reported between July 6th and July 17th, mainly in Chungcheongnam-do, Jeollabuk-do, and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
And President Yoon has pledged to allocate taxpayers' money to relief efforts amid the recent rain-related tragedies. Speaking at a cabinet meeting earlier on this Tuesday, the president called for priority to be placed on disaster response with regard to available resources, including government funds. The remarks follow his designation of special disaster zones in regions where the repercussions of the rain have been particularly painful. President Yoon also called for a revamp of the nation's disaster response system as extreme weather phenomena become the norm, highlighting efforts to usher in a new digital mechanism in the near future. Beyond the national tasks, he also touched upon the latest diplomatic advances on the security front between Korea and NATO, underscoring the importance of broader collaboration between Asia and Europe. Also on this Tuesday, capital Seoul hosts the inaugural meeting of a nuclear consultation body between Korea and the U.S. established under the Washington Declaration. Our senior presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
South Korea and the United States are launching their bilateral dialogue platform to coordinate nuclear responses to North Korea's growing security threat. On Tuesday, President Yoon spoke at the inaugural meeting of the Nuclear Consultative Group in Seoul, with the first quarterly session to address information sharing, consultation mechanisms, joint planning and execution of nuclear deterrence against North Korea.
제1차 한미 핵 협의 그룹 회의는 강력하고 실효적인 한미 확장 억제를 구축하는 중요한 출발점이 될 것입니다. 핵 기반의 새로운 패러다임으로 업그레이드된 한미 동맹을 통해 북한의 핵과 미사일 위협을 원천적으로 봉쇄하기 위한 실체적인 노력들을 전개해 나갈 것입니다.
The NCG was formed as part of Presidents Yoon and Joe Biden's Washington Declaration in April, after North Korea launched an unprecedented number of missile tests last year, and experts warned that a seventh nuclear test could be imminent. Amid growing concern over the North's fast-evolving capabilities, and with recent public opinion surveys finding over 70% feel the need for South Korea to develop its own nuclear weapons, Seoul and Washington agreed in April to bolster their joint capabilities and confidence in executing the US extended deterrence policy of defending allies who fall under conventional or nuclear attack. While Seoul does not have nuclear weapons, the NCG would allow its participation in Washington's nuclear planning and operating process, differentiating the group from other dialogue bodies such as the Extended Deterrence Strategy and Consultation Group. This could help reduce strategic gaps and response time in nuclear crises, bolstering credibility and cohesiveness between the two allies. While critics say the NCG falls short of nuclear sharing or shared control of US assets, such as under NATO's own arrangement with Washington, others deem it an important window into Washington's planning and decision-making. On that note, a senior presidential official in Seoul told reporters that South Korea's involvement in NATO's military intel sharing system called BICES could provide crucial insights into its own exchange and use of information with the United States. Underscoring its importance, the NCG talks have been upgraded to the level of vice ministers, with Principal Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho and White House Indo-Pacific Coordinator Kurt Campbell co-hosting the session on Tuesday. 오수영, Arirang News.
And South Korea has rebuked recent remarks by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong. The foreign ministry here on this Tuesday claimed her comments regarding Seoul-Washington military exercises as provoking Pyongyang are a pretext for advancing hostile weapons ambitions. Stressing that Pyongyang is legally required to surrender its nuclear weapons technology under the United Nations Security Council, the ministry condemned the regime for its deceptive pursuit of weapons of mass destruction, despite agreeing to abandon them in the past. Accordingly, the ministry urged Pyongyang to halt such hostility and to return to dialogue and diplomacy. Fears over global supplies of food and fertilizer are mounting as Russia backtracks on a deal that allowed grain to flow from Ukraine to parts of the world. Our Lee Seung-jae explains.
Despite weeks of negotiations, the deal that was brokered by Turkey and the UN almost a year ago to allow more than 30 million tons of Ukrainian grain access to global markets officially expired on Monday. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres shared his disappointment at Russia's decision to step away from the deal.
I deeply regret the decision by the Russian Federation to terminate the implementation of the Black Sea Initiative, including the withdrawal of Russian security guarantees for navigation in the northwestern part of the Black Sea. This initiative has ensured the safe passage of over 32 million metric tons of food commodities from Ukrainian ports.
Despite Russia's decision not to renew the grains deal, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, in a video message on Monday, stressed that the deal was in agreement with Turkey and the UN, adding his belief that the agreement remains in effect and hinting that Ukraine may continue its exports despite the deal expiring.
The Black Sea Grain Initiative can and should continue to operate. If without Russia, then without Russia. The agreement on grain exports is an agreement with Turkey and the UN, and it remains in effect.
The expiration of the deal may deal a major blow to both Ukraine and countries that rely heavily on Ukraine's grains. Ukraine is one of the world's largest grain exporters. As of 2021, before the Russian invasion, it was the third largest exporter of barley, fourth largest corn exporter, and fifth largest wheat exporter worldwide, with 95% of that grain moving through Black Sea ports. Speaking at the White House on the same day, National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby called Russia's decision an act of aggression that will harm people all over the world. Before the deal was signed last year, global wheat and corn prices soared 56.5% and 15.7% on year respectively, heightening food shortages in low-income countries. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In other news, Seoul Central Bank is sounding the alarm over ballooning household debt here in Korea. That is reportedly the third largest among major economies. Our Moon Hye-ryun has more.
As of last year, the household debt-to-GDP ratio in South Korea was 105%. Among 43 major economies, this was the third largest after Switzerland and Australia, the Bank of Korea said on Monday. The BOK pointed out that the high profitability and stability of household loans, as well as insufficient regulations on them, as the causes of the increase in such debt. Financial institutions have been providing a relatively large amount in these loans compared to corporate ones, as they have lower default rates and higher profitability. According to the BOK, the impact of the increased household debt on financial stability has been limited due to the large proportion of high net income borrowers. But there are rising concerns that over the longer term, it could hinder economic growth and widen asset inequality.
The financial sector can become very weak because if the economy slows down and many of these families can no longer pay back the debt, then some financial institutions may become insolvent.
To reduce household debt, the bank said it was necessary to use macroeconomics and monetary policies that are especially focused on financial stability. It also suggested revising current loan regulations such as minimizing exceptions to the debt service ratio, or DSR.
DSR was effective in limiting the growth of household debt. It wasn't completely successful in reducing household debt, but combination of increasing interest rates and DSR ratio probably did much to keep household debt growth in check. Now, if the government loosens up the DSR regulations and households take more loans, then there is a possibility that households will take much more loans than they can afford.
According to data from the Bank for Intentional Settlements, Seoul's DSR was 13.6% last year. This is the second highest among 17 major economies after Australia, indicating a greater debt repayment burden compared to income. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
On an optimistic note now, Korea saw its largest exports of K-pop during the first half of this year. Data from the Korea Customs Service on Tuesday show the value of K-pop album exports during the January to June period amounted to nearly $133 million, up 17.1% on year and the highest for any half year. Neighboring Japan was the top destination for K-pop exports, followed by the US, a clear indication of K-pop's growing influence there. Meanwhile, K-pop girl group Blackpink has set yet another record on YouTube. The group's label YG Entertainment on Monday said the number of subscribers on Blackpink's official YouTube channel has surpassed 90 million, the most in the world. The milestone was reached 7 years and 1 month after the channel was launched, and also comes about a year after the group hit a record of 80 million subscribers last September. BTS follows in second place with over 75 million, and Justin Bieber stands third with over 71 million. The recent rampant rain here in Korea is being linked to climate change, and pundits say extreme weather phenomena are looking to become more prevalent across the world. Our Yoon reports.
More countries around the world are experiencing climate events caused by extreme weather conditions. South Korea reaches a 10th day of heavy downpours being called water bombs, which have caused flash floods. Such conditions have caused devastating landslides, flooding of underground infrastructure, and overflowing rivers as the death toll continues to rise across the country. In neighboring Japan, just over this past weekend, the country saw some 414.5 millimeters of rain, an amount over 2 days that was greater than over the entire month of July in previous years. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, June was the hottest June globally in the 174 years of records kept by the agency. The United States was scorched by record heat in the west and south, while the northeast was lashed by rain, causing floods, and the Midwest was choked by wildfire smoke. California's Death Valley, that's been dubbed the hottest place on Earth, reached 54 degrees Celsius on Sunday. In coping with such extreme heat and in preventing climate-related deaths, countries in the Middle East like the United Arab Emirates have imposed restrictions on working outdoors between 12:30 p.m. and 3 p.m. Health ministries across Europe have issued red alerts, and with temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius in Greece, access has been closed to several tourist destinations like the Acropolis Monument. As El Niño returns for the first time in 4 years, which typically increases global temperatures in the year after it develops, the World Meteorological Organization has said there is a 98% likelihood that at least one of the next 5 years and the 5-year period overall will be the warmest on record. Yoon, Arirang News.
Cows emit a significant amount of methane, a harmful gas that aggravates climate change, and a research team here is seeking to address the dilemma by changing cattle feed. Our Chonju has details.
Abnormally high temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius and above were seen this year in East Asia, Western Europe, and South America. South Korea has also seen unusually high temperatures. Spring flowers bloomed early due to the warmer climate, and in May, the east coast city of Gangneung saw temperatures reach 35 degrees Celsius. Global warming is causing this extreme weather. Carbon dioxide and methane are the more common greenhouse gases that cause global warming. Methane, in particular, is more potent than carbon dioxide. Although only a small amount is emitted into the air, its greenhouse effect is 80 times that of carbon dioxide.
Methane has been rising at a record level for 3 consecutive years since 2020. As of 2022, methane concentrations have exceeded 2.5 times pre-industrial levels.
The combustion of coal or LNG gas emits methane, but the amount that cows release is also huge. Cattle regurgitate and rechew their food. This is known as cut chewing. Microorganisms in the intestine produce gas during the process of decomposing food, and this is released when cows pass wind. The main component of this gas is methane. One cow emits about 280 liters of methane per day, equivalent to the daily emissions of a car. Worldwide, cows emit around 1 million tons a year, accounting for 18% of total greenhouse gas emissions. For this reason, countries worldwide, including South Korea, are making efforts to reduce methane emissions by introducing eco-friendly feed.
Among the substances researched for reducing methane, the most effective is known to be the red sea plume, a species of red algae. It's known to reduce methane generation by about 80%.
The South Korean research team plans to promote a pilot project to reduce greenhouse gas production by 10% through low methane feed in Jeju Island by 2030 and gradually expand it nationwide. 정은주, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. We shift our attention to Greece now, where hundreds of residents of the coastal towns near Athens were forced to flee from a wildfire on Monday. The blaze broke out in the village of Kovaras and affected nearby villages in a matter of hours. On the same day, a second fire near the capital prompted the evacuation of some 1,200 children from a summer camp alongside residents of a rehabilitation center. A third fire in a forest 30 kilometers from Athens also broke out. Firefighters, military personnel, aircraft and helicopters are currently tackling 81 fires across Greece. The wildfires have been blamed on strong winds, soaring temperatures, and a previous dry winter that has created tinderbox conditions. Turning over to Western Australia, where a mysterious large metal cylinder has washed ashore. The object was found by local residents at Greenhead Beach over the weekend. Authorities have since confirmed that the object is not dangerous, but have asked people to stay away from it. According to experts, the copper-colored cylinder may be a fuel tank from an Indian space rocket. The cylinder is said to be around 2.5 meters wide, up to 3 meters long, and is thought to be less than 12 months old. It also appears to have sustained damage, with a large tear at the bottom. Australia's military and its space agency are among those working to confirm the object's origin and nature. And finally, a neighborhood in Florida is dealing with a number of furry invaders. As many as 100 lionhead rabbits have taken up residence in the suburbs of Fort Lauderdale. They were allegedly illegally released by a local breeder who has since moved away. But the rabbits are ill-suited for life outside in Florida, and their thick fur is not well adapted for Florida heat. Local residents are trying to raise up to $40,000 needed to bring in a rescue group that will capture, neuter, vaccinate and shelter the rabbits until they can be given proper homes. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's forecast to be another day of soaking downpours with heavy rain. Mountainous regions on Jeju could see more than 450 millimeters of rain. The south coast could see up to 350 millimeters of massive rainfall until tomorrow. And through tonight, southern regions in the south of Gangwon-do province will see rain hammering down. Concern is on the rise as torrential rains will be dumped on already soaked regions. A heavy rain warning remains in place across the south for the 5th day in a row, and violent winds are expected for the south coast and Jeju along with that heavy showers. The capital will see rain tapering off as the day goes on with an expected high of 27 degrees, about 4 degrees higher than yesterday. The south are seeing highs going down 4 to 5 degrees lower this afternoon, hovering at 27 degrees Celsius. Rain continues to drench southern regions in Jeju tomorrow. Then monsoon rain returns this weekend. Well, while rain takes a break up north, sizzling heat sets in. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. And that ends our Tuesday afternoon newscast. Thank you for watching, and do stay tuned for our panel session coming up next.